down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. And I still have more subscribers and followers than CNN. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome to one and all Whiskey Warrior P1s as well as newcomers. I thank you for coming and watching this program. This is absolutely wonderful. I do appreciate it. Believe me. I can't tell you how much it means, not only just to me, but also, to everyone else that you come here, you join in, you get in the chats, you jump on over to Rumble and get in the Rumble chats. You talk a little bit amongst yourselves on Facebook. I see some people over there. Rumble is definitely where the party is, though, just so you know. But that being said, we have several people that are over on Facebook, and I appreciate every single one of my Whiskey Warrior P1 listeners, watchers, etc. All right, so tonight I've got a few articles to discuss. A couple of breaking news items. One in particular that just happened within the last hour, or at least was just reported within the last hour. And then also I have I don't do this often. I don't play a lot of videos and stuff, but I do have a funny video that I think you guys are going to enjoy a little bit later in the program. But before I get to any of that, let me go ahead and tell you about True Grit Roots Network. True Grit Roots Network, TGRN, champions independent artists while paying respect to the pioneers who shaped modern roots music by featuring outlaw, country, blues, and rock with a unique twist of urban that is carefully selected and purposely put together. We are the radio highway that connects the back roads, highways, and city streets to your favorite dance hall, roadhouse, and juke joint. TGRN provides original exclusive programming and interviews that are produced and hosted by our own team of DJs, hosts, and personalities. Find us on the web at tgrn.net to download our app in the App Store and from Google Play. Alternatively, you can find us in the Live 365 catalog of internet digital radio stations and through the Live 365 app as well. You can also play our station on your Amazon Alexa by saying, "Play True Grit Roots Network from Live 365. Be sure to use the word "from" in the command, "Play True Grit Roots Network from Live 365. Live 365 is also now on Roku, so you can listen through your television too. And TGRN also would love to announce our newest sponsor, American Badass Whiskey from Garage Oil Spirits. American Badass Whiskey is a high-octane, extra-fine blend of American whiskey made for every hardworking man and woman that proudly puts in a solid day's work every single day and doesn't complain about it like a little bitch. Check out this new award-winning Texas whiskey at garageoilspirits.com. That website, once again, is Garage Oil Spirits, that's all one word, all lowercase, .com. Breaking boundaries for authentic roots radio, True Grit Roots Network, tgrn.net, Austin, Texas. And that is an awesome new addition for a sponsor. I am looking forward, because I've been told I have a bottle on or going to be coming my way soon. And so I am looking for it to come soon, and I will definitely try it out on the show. And hey, I might even see if I can pull some strings and get the manufacturer representative in for an interview to talk about what they do and why they are doing it. Buddy Weiser asks over on Rumble, why no TGRN feed on Rumble? Mainly because of the fact, buddy, it is all music. It's not, there isn't any video component to it. at least as far as the regular programming is concerned. We have discussed doing, when we do like sites, remote shows and things like that are live. We have discussed that in video, but realistically, we're just trying to get the radio portion locked down first before we go and start expanding into the video side of the house. But believe me, it's there and it's coming. Eventually, it will show up for that. So, all right. I know that you know, I'm going to start off. Oh, wait a minute. Before I get going too far, I got two other things to do. It's been a little bit. The first thing is tonight I am drinking a new try. This is Shanky's Whip Irish whiskey. And it's Black Smooth Irish, according to this. But this is something that popped up in my stocking this year for a stocking stuffer. And so that is what I have in my glass tonight. And this is a first try at it. All right. We have... Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. This has got some sort of a... what do I want to... It's like a caramel candy. God, I wish you guys had like smell-o-vision or something, you know, Willy Wonka smell-o-vision. But it's got like I can't even, like a caramel smell to it. And it tastes... It tastes sweet and smooth. That's... Wow. I'm actually kind of surprised about this. I'm not exactly sure if I would want to drink it on a regular basis because I'm usually partial to more of a harsher, you know, bite. But yeah, that looks, that actually tastes pretty decent. Yes. Licorice. Thank you. That's what I was looking for, is kind of a licorice thing. So, yeah, so that's cool. And if I run out of that, or if I drink that too much, of course, I've got a little taster of Jameson Plain, just to kind of stick with the Irish theme for the evening. All right, tonight is Saturday night, and for Saturday night, you know as well as I do that we do tonight's On This Day in American History. And for tonight, of course, and every Saturday night, well, just about every Saturday night, we read from the American Patriots Almanac. You got to check this book out. William J. Bennett, John T.E. Cribb. I have the revised, updated, and an expanded version, but apparently there's another one out, and I'll have to get that one to see what else they might have added. But I will keep going with this, and tonight is January 21st, and we are going to talk a little bit about the Bible and the oath. Because January 20th, the constitutionally prescribed date for presidential inaugurations, fell on a Sunday in 1985, Ronald Reagan's public inaugural ceremony for his second term was moved to January 21st. Due to bad weather, the ceremony was held in the Capitol Rotunda, the first time the oath of office was taken there. Like many presidents, Reagan swore the oath with a Bible opened to the scripture he chose. Here are some examples of scripture passages used by various presidents. In Theodore Roosevelt's inauguration in 1905, his passage was from James 1, verse 22 and 23. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. Woodrow Wilson in 1917 opened it to Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength, the very present help in trouble. Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933, 1937, 1941, and 1945 did 1 Corinthians 13, If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. Gerald Ford in 1974 did Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Jimmy Carter in 1977 had Micah 6, verse 8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? And then, of course, Ronald Reagan in 1981 and again in 1985 did 2 Chronicles 7, verse 14. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will heat from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. And that is tonight's On This Day in American History. You know, so many people sit there and talk about and say that America is supposed to be a secular country. I'm sorry. But you read things like that from our history. You read things like John Adams saying that the Constitution was basically made for a country that is, of religious and immoral people and things like that. I'm sorry, but we are a Christian nation. We always have been a Christian nation, and that was the intent of us to be in a Christian nation. All right. I do have to give a real quick shout out. Outlaw Dogs. I don't know, for those of you who are over on Rumble and familiar, Outlaw Dogs coaches a couple of swim teams, a boys and a girls swim team. And both swim teams have gone 3-0 so far in their season. They won tonight as well. And apparently, they are going up against their rivals next week. And their rivals, they have not beaten in 10 years. So prayers up for the Water Moccasins to win their meet next week. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do a couple, think of them for next Saturday when they go and they do their thing in the pool. While they're running around and taking care of all those things. I mean, obviously, even though anybody will tell you today, oh, it's the participation that counts. Bull crap. It was winning. Winning is what counts. And losing counts too, to learn from your mistakes and your loss and that kind of stuff to make it to where you can become a winner. And that is what it is all about. And I know that Outlaw Dogs puts a lot of effort into coaching these kids, and the kids, of course, put in a lot of effort and determination in order to be able to get these times and everything else going for that. All right, so I have first up, I have some breaking news which just came out. Just came out about an hour before I came on live. And let me just show you what that is. Now, the Daily Wire is reporting this. It was the first that I heard of it, but I know that the Washington Examiner as well as the Epoch Times have picked it up as well. But apparently, the Department of Justice, federal officials have searched President Joe Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware yesterday and discovered some more classified documents. Apparently, they picked up 6 more from this man's private residences. The DOJ, so this is a statement by Bob Bauer, which is Biden's personal lawyer. He said in a statement, the DOJ took possession of materials it deemed within the scope of its inquiry, including 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings and surrounding materials, some of which were from the president's service in the Senate, and some of which were from his tenure as vice president. DOJ also took, for further review, personally handwritten notes from the vice presidential years. And of course, this is a breaking news story, so we want to apply the we also want to apply the Dan Bongino rule and kind of let it marinate for about 72 hours. But you know, here we are again. Joe Biden, I'm going to tell you, this man, he has absolutely no regrets for what he did, taking those classified documents, at least according to him. And, you know, once again, I'm just going to tell you, as a senator or as a vice president, he does not, I say this again, does not have the ability to declassify documents. The only person that can do that is the president of the United States. And up until 2021, Joe Biden has never been the president of the United States. So, yeah. You know, and the thing about it is about these documents, which this keeps getting worse and worse, folks. It just does. Mainly just because of the fact that now we have photos that have come out with regards to the Corvette and the garage. Apparently, Hunter Biden had access to the Corvette. He's been seen driving, or has photos where he was driving around with some other individuals. I believe they were women, but I'm not 100% certain, of course, because everything was blurred. But the point is that all of this stuff is, it's just getting worse for the man. It really, really is. And I caught this article from the Washington Examiner, which, of course, inspired my title for tonight. And this is kind of an interesting take, realistically. And Bonnie, do me a favor, quit trying to jump ahead. I got something on that, too. Anyway, so this piece from the Washington Examiner caught my eye. And the reason why is because of the way that they phrased it. And this is kind of an interesting angle that this person is taking. This individual, Jerry Dunleavy, who's a Justice Department reporter. And let me just go and show you this. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. And this reporter said that the sins of the son, how Hunter Biden's scandals are affecting Joe Biden's classified documents saga. I'm sorry, folks. I cannot look at the Bidens and just automatically assume that Joe is outside of the idea that, you know, Hunter Biden is the culprit. He is the one that did all of this. He is the one that is in cahoots with it. But, you know, he's the ringleader, because believe me, he's not. I'm fairly certain that this, and you know, even though I can't imagine that Joe would be necessarily this intelligent, but this kind of a situation, I think, has been played for a very, very, very long time. And it goes all the way back to when when Joe was in the Senate. I'm fairly certain on this. So looking at this and trying to take the tack that Hunter Biden is actually the one with the sins and how this is going to affect the classified documents, I don't quite agree. And the reason being is that apparently Hunter Biden's scandals, according to this piece, have intersected with the classified documents saga of his father, with evidence showing that the troubled son likely had access to at least one of the areas where the president kept classified documents. The president's lawyers have admitted to Obama-era records with classified markings on them were found in his office at the Penn Biden Center in early November, and more classified documents found in the president's garage in Delaware in December, and further found in his Delaware home. You know, again, there's evidence that shows that Hunter Biden spent time at the Wilmington home and likely had access to the garage as well. This is, you know, I've been telling you this for a while, is because of the fact that the documents were completely unsecured. They've been in an unsecure location that apparently at least Hunter Biden had access to it. Hunter Biden, there was a report last couple of days that Hunter Biden actually blacked out near where the documents were stored when there were Chinese foreign nationals visiting the Biden home. Now, how accurate that is, I don't know. But if it is accurate, that just basically shows you how careless these people were with these guys. Okay. And so I'm telling you right now, I don't see a way for this guy to come back from this. If all things are remained equal, I do not see how this guy is going to come out of this realistically for this. And there's another report that came out from back in his older days, and I was reading this before we came on, so I apologize for that. But apparently Joe Biden may be linked to Hunter's Chinese business dealings in an email that was released discussing a call with Hunter about a major gas deal with the Chinese company CEFC, which, if you have read the Miranda Devine Laptop from Hell book, you would know was in a business deal with Rosemont Seneca Holdings. Now, my last episode, I told you that there is a trail of specific dollar amounts of money going from the Chinese Communist CEFC into Rosemont Seneca Holdings and passing directly through to Joe Biden as a payment for rent on his one of his Delaware residences. And so this email now coming out also just further cements the entire thing that, first of all, Joe Biden knew what his son was doing while his son was doing it. He likely approved of it at the same time, regardless of what Joe Biden says. And we already know, based on, many proofs, the fact that Joe Biden is a pathological liar. He has certain tells, like when he says, no joke, it's not hyperbole. Those kinds of verbal tells tell us that he is lying about whatever it is that he's going, because Joe Biden is one of those types of people that he has to hype up his, I want to call it machismo, but his value to everyone else. And he's been doing it for so long that he just goes ahead and adds those things in. And the amount was $49,910 is the specific amount that went from the CEFC to Rosemont Holdings or Rosemont Seneca Partners, and from Rosemont Seneca Partners directly to Joe Biden. And ironically, coming from CEFC and going into Rosemont Seneca Partners, it basically says that it's for rent. And then on another receipt, you see it going from Rosemont Seneca Partners directly into Joe Biden as also paying rent. So I'm telling you, we have a extremely corrupt president. We likely have a corrupt first lady, because I doubt she did not know what the hell is going on. This entire family, the Biden family, whether it was Joe, his brother, or Joe's son, Hunter, all three of them are a part of this. And there is just no way, that this entire family did not know where all of this money was coming from. And the laptop has kind of shown that, demonstrated in like emails and communiques from Hunter to other people within his family, saying things like, you have no idea, I'm paying for, all of this, for all of the family expenses, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. So this thing is just the tip of the iceberg. Forget about the fact of the classified documents, even though they were there and everything else. I mean, seriously, all that really is doing is just opening up the door for further investigations to take a much closer look at the Biden family finances and everything else. I'm telling you, that's where this is going to go. But apparently in this meeting or this email, getting back to the political insider piece, a Louisiana-based lawyer named Robert Fennett confirms that he has arranged a call from Joe Biden and Hunter Biden on Monday morning to discuss the purchase of 5 million tons of gas from, quote, from the U.S. side of the deal, which was Houston energy company Cheniere, Chemiere. The report points out that during the same month, Hunter and the president's brother, Jim, were brokering a multi-million-dollar deal to supply gas from Louisiana to China on behalf of their business partners, China's energy giant, CEFC. Now, this was in a period, believe it or not, the email was dated October 27th, 2017. So Joe Biden had left office by this point, but had not announced his run for president yet. But the thing about it is, again, we've got evidence that where there's smoke, there's fire. This guy and his family have been bilking the American people out of money in brokering deals and making all kinds of just deals with foreign agents. Foreign entities. He was never registered as a foreign agent, which is very important when you're dealing with the American government and everything else. So, this is getting worse and worse. Now, there is another report that came out this past week, which, of course, obviously was the wrong tact. But there's another report that came out this last week, and this article from Red State is just one, where the DOJ and the Biden White House apparently had an understanding to keep the classified documents quiet. So, look, we're talking about a corrupt government in all levels. And this is seriously, this is a big problem. This is going to be a huge problem for Biden. And it's starting to show in terms of the cracks that are happening. First of all, the fact that the DOJ is actually, and Merrick Garland has been painted into a corner and has basically gotten the DOJ to appoint a special counsel to take a look. So yeah, this is going to be, this whole thing is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, it's not just the Republicans and the Republican House that are going after these people. You also have the news media has now no longer decided to cover up for Biden, although they are softening their language a bit. They haven't gone quite to the hard level that the right or the right-leaning media has, but they are leaning more and more and more toward Biden is tainted goods and needs to be getting out or getting them out of there. Now, two Democrats are now openly calling for a full investigation into the Biden classified documents. This is from the Washington Examiner, which admittedly is a right-leaning magazine. But apparently at least two Senate Democrats have joined Republicans in calling for a full investigation into President Joe Biden's handling of the classified documents after multiple batches were found at his think tank office and private Delaware residence. We can say residences now. Senator Joe Manchin, not a friend, and Tim Kaine, another non-friend, who were both up for re-election next year, have openly called for an investigation into the documents, noting the discoveries raise serious questions about national security. You think? The two apparently are joining calls from several congressional Republicans who have pressed for an inquiry into the matter. Manchin told Fox News yesterday that the reports about President Biden's mishandling of classified documents are extremely irresponsible and disturbing. These allegations should be investigated fully. Kaine echoed Manchin's sentiments, praising the Justice Department's decision to appoint a special counsel to investigate. Kaine told Fox News also that this news raises serious questions, and the appointment of an unbiased special prosecutor to investigate the matter is the right step. Okay, so here's the thing. Here is the thing. When you have Democrats who have broken ranks from their party and have started accusing Joe Biden, this is where you really, really, really need to understand. Democrats have one thing that they are really, really, really common. When they may fight in and amongst themselves, but in general, they will stand up and unite against a common enemy. In other words, a common goal for conservatives, to beat conservatives and everything else. This is how they beat us every single time, because the Republicans actually don't do that. We don't always necessarily close ranks, circle the wagons, etc., etc. We are a little bit more, as far as conservatives are concerned, we're a little bit more outspoken, and publicly we don't close ranks like the Democrats do. This is part of the reason why they are able to manipulate and gain all of the things that they have, because regardless of their political infighting, okay, regardless of the political infighting that goes on within their party, they will close ranks, and they will all back each other up when it comes to defeating conservatives and conservative values. This is something that the Republicans have had a really hard problem dealing with, and they really, really, really need to learn how to do this same exact thing with the Democrats. Now, we generally ask, or we generally have things like, for an example, rhinos, say Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, some of those other guys who still are part of the old pieces, who still go and try to reach across the aisle and work with the Democrats, rather than closing ranks and going, no, we're not going to work with you. This is how we want it, and this is how it goes. And that's part of the reason why we have such a fractured front when it comes to dealing with the liberal leftist Democrats. Okay. That being said, and you need to understand that in order to fully understand the significance of the liberal media and the Dems starting to break ranks with some of these things. Okay. Now, one other breaking news that just popped, which this is actually a really, really big thing. I mean, I can't even say it enough. You know, we've heard about the White House having issues, especially with the VP's office. The VP was bleeding people dry, but we never really heard anything coming out of like the Biden camp, the president's side of the offices, until tonight. And tonight, there is breaking news that Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, is set to resign. Now, the Post-Millennial put in the title of the article, or the header, saying that he's going to resign amid classified document scandal. The other couple of articles that I threw in, like the Washington Examiner and the other one, the Daily Wire, they kind of softened it a little bit. So what they basically are discussing here is the fact that Ron Klain is reportedly planning to step down from his position within the coming weeks. And the reason why is because he's privately apparently been telling several people over the last couple of months that he has had enough of the intense work that is required in the position, and that he's ready for something else. And this broke according to the New York Times. Now, for those of you that don't really understand government, the White House chief of staff has an incredible amount of power. when it comes to being inside the administration. Okay. So the thing about it is that Ron Klain is, I would say, the driving force for a lot of the White House's messaging, a lot of the White House's communications when it comes to policy making. The chief of staff also deals with people like Karine Jean-Pierre and gives her talking points. If you think that the president actually talks to every single one of these people on a regular daily basis, you are sorely mistaken. Usually the way that works is the president talks to the chief of staff, and the chief of staff goes and disseminates that information out. Now, we've noticed that many times in the past, Biden has said something, and then all of a sudden the White House has walked it back. I can almost 100% guarantee you that that was Ron Klain doing the walkback. Because of the fact that Biden has dementia, arguably, and is losing his mental faculties, there is a lot of the messaging that has been confused between Biden coming out and even with some of Biden's stories, like where he talked about being a truck driver or having cancer, or because he grew up around mills and things like that. All of these things are really, really, really questionable, and they get walked back and changed more than likely because of the chief of staff. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this report is that, number one, there hasn't really been talk of who's going to take his place. So even though he's been saying, or apparently internally has been saying that it's time for him to move on, that he wants to find something else, which, believe me, as a chief of staff, I can just imagine how stressful that job has to be. I mean, just think about all of the tweets that Donald Trump did and his chief of staff having to go through and like correct all of that. Now you have Biden, who literally is not purposely tweeting anything other than, just spewing garbage out of his mouth. And poor, Ron Klain here has got to go and do all the cleanup of it. So now what we're seeing is basically that Ron Klain is like, look, 2 years, enough is enough. And especially now it seems very ill-timed over this whole classified document scandal, which isn't really a classified document scandal. It's more of an investigation, I think, into the Biden family and all of their crap that they've got going on. Now, the report noted that the move comes just as the 80-year-old president is expected to announce in the coming months that he will run for a second term in office. We're going to have to see about that. Okay, folks. Now, they also have some of the top choices to replace Klain included Labor Secretary Martin J. Walsh, former Governor Jack A. Markell of Delaware, now serving as an ambassador to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, Stephen Ricchetti, the counselor to the president, and Jeffrey Zients, the administration's former coronavirus response coordinator, Susan Rice, who you might remember from the Obama administration, the White House domestic policy advisor, and Tom Vilsack, the Secretary of Agriculture. There's also one more person on that list that the Daily Wire doesn't note, but I believe it's the Washington Examiner says. Let me get rid of this big blue banner. Let's see. Okay, so the Washington Examiner doesn't say it. Let's go back to the Post Millennial and see if the Post Millennial talks about it. There's also one other person. Here. So the Post Millennial adds to that list that was there, adds senior advisor Anita Dunn. Now, Anita Dunn has an interesting facet to this, which will be very, very, very interesting moving forward. And let me explain why. Anita Dunn, according to Hot Air, this article from Hot Air, Anita Dunn was the one who was behind the decision to keep the classified document story from the press. So Anita Dunn is the one that is being blamed now by Hot Air for essentially silencing, back in November, the story that they found classified documents in Biden's homes. Okay. So Anita Dunn is the one that's kind of in the responsibility, or at least right now, according to this report, in the responsibility for the spin for, Biden's documents. It wasn't that big of a deal. By the way, yeah, okay, so he did it, but it wasn't. I mean, again, he's cooperating. And then you start adding up things like, we're going to keep it out. So, so apparently so this is a report coming out that they thought that the White House thought that it would be a good strategy. So early on, Biden's attorneys and the Justice Department investigators both thought they had a shared understanding about keeping the matter quiet. I did talk about that, but they had very different reasons. The White House was hoping for a speedy inquiry that would find no intentional mishandling of the documents, planning to disclose the matter only after justice issued its all clear. Apparently, CBS News actually was the first news organization to learn of the matter, according to Hot Air, contacting the White House on January 6th to ask about the Penn Biden Center documents. White House officials confirmed the scoop, but since the investigation was ongoing, they decided not to offer any additional details, including the critical information that a second batch had been discovered at Biden's home. We now know there's been like 3 or 4 or 5 or even 6 batches that have been found. So, anyway, first of all, just remember, all of these people are just the nepotism here. And by nepotism, I don't mean like actual family, connections, but all of these people tend to rotate around between the media, the Washington insiders, and the Democrat Party. They all work together. And that's pretty much exactly what you can consider or think of as the deep state. Okay. So Anita Dunn, she's already tainted, but she is on the hook, or potentially on the hook, for a replacement to Ron Klain. And we'll have to keep an eye on that in the coming days to see what exactly happens there. And that pretty much kind of covers the major portions of the breaking news that I wanted to do. So I'm going to take a second and step back for a moment from all of that. And I want to tell you about this video. I was actually sent this video today by a very loyal and avid listener who sent me this video. And I normally don't show a lot of videos on my show, mainly just because of the fact that sometimes I can get copyrighted and all that other stuff. But this is hilarious, and I'm hoping that we get a chance to get this guy, or to let this guy go, and eventually, and play this as he is seriously leaving. Let me go ahead. I want to go ahead and play this for you. So if you will excuse me and indulge me for a little bit, here we go.
Pack up all your Prevagen, someone else is moving in. Bye, bye, Biden. Delaware, have someone change your underwear. Bye, bye, Biden. You promised to unite us in November. That's probably something that you don't remember. We can't go on the way it is. You don't even know what day it is. Biden, bye-bye. Millions raised in crooked deals. Oh my God, the laptop's real. Bye, bye, Biden. It don't matter anyhow, 'cause everyone's a racist now. Bye, bye, Biden. You say that you believe in law and order, except for all of those who cross the border. Gas is high, crime is too, everyone's to blame but you. Biden, bye-bye. Afghanistan, Ukraine, and high inflation. Let's go! Brandon sweeps the nation. Never seen polls so low, it's time to go. Sleepy Joe. Biden, 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 bye-bye. Biden, bye-bye.
All right, and you can see that was done by a man by or sung by and created by a man by the name of Jesse Goldberg. And then the YouTube site, Her Bunk, put it to video, I guess. And so I have the link. It is the first link in it's the first link in the description of this broadcast if you want to go and grab it. But I got to tell you, that was just, to me, it was just hilarious. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh. And what's even funnier is I'm sitting there walking through the studio and the house and everything, and I'm sitting here going, bye bye Biden, and I'm hoping and praying that someday soon we get a chance to go ahead and put that back up and sing for the man to go goodbye. I want him gone. Now I know a lot of people have been saying, we really got to be careful here because we have Kamala Harris behind him. And ironically, there was even a question earlier that with regards to what is it possible to 25th or to impeach both of them or 25th both of them. That has never happened in all of history. So that would be a history-making moment. But there doesn't seem to be anything preventing that. I mean, the 25th Amendment does not talk about not being able to do both of them at the same time. Same thing with impeachment. It doesn't talk about the impeachment of both of them at the same time. Now, obviously, impeachment has to include removal by the Senate, which we all know that the Senate is likely not going to do anything. However, if this document scandal and everything else starts really kicking off, you might see a lot more Democrats that are actually going to be questioning that. And there's even some supposition about the whole idea with the document scandal that the Democrat Party has finally been done, just completely done with Joe Biden, and they are looking to move him out to prevent him from running in 2024 so they can get somebody who is younger, more suitable, and potentially could actually take on the likes of a Donald Trump or a Ron DeSantis. On that note, I do have an article coming up here in just a moment in just a few minutes with regards to that. But before I get to that, I have one other thing that's coming down. So everybody knows that, obviously Roe versus Wade was overturned. And even my state, my wonderful, and I use that term very, very loosely, wonderful Senator Patty Murray keeps tweeting out all the time how she is working to secure women's rights to an abortion. And like I keep telling her on Twitter, I'm like, you know what? You're wasting your time. The Supreme Court has already said that it is not a matter for the federal government. And I am telling you that Congress, it shouldn't even be a part of it, because I think that if Congress passes a bill, regardless of which side you're on, whether it's for abortion or against abortion, I honestly think the 10th Amendment should be the first thing that people go after in regards to it. Abortion does not appear in the Constitution. It does not appear in the Constitution as a right. That literally wouldn't even have remotely come into the framers' minds. And the 10th Amendment essentially would block all of that if it was used on a regular basis. And I've said this on this show multiple times, that the 10th Amendment, in my view, is one of the most underused amendments, that is probably one of the more powerful amendments to our Constitution. Now, the funny thing about all of this is, of course, everybody, after Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision came down, everybody was like, oh my gosh, abortions are going to have all kinds of problems. We're going to have issues. We're going to have, abortions being done in back alleys, and people are going to be dying, and oh my gosh, it's just horrible, and everything else. Well, so far in Texas, abortions have actually, and this is after they did that abortion ban, which is still being upheld as far as I'm aware, they have found that, yes, abortions are down quite significantly in Texas. But even though the abortions are down quite significantly, it's not like the end of the world scenario that the left and the pro-abortion folks have predicted. Again, keep in mind that with abortion, and I have an article here in just a second about this, with abortion, the majority of the country realistically thinks that abortion itself should not necessarily be completely banned, okay? That there is I don't want to call it a happy medium, but there is a middle ground that probably could be picked up here. And in the majority of polling that has come out, I've even talked about it on this show, the majority of the polling shows that many people agree that abortion should be available, but only within the first trimester. Meaning that up until the point that you actually can hear the heartbeat of the baby, then abortion should no longer be allowed. Now, a lot of people have gone back and forth as to what abortion actually means. And I'm going to tell you, if in most cases, most people would say that if it comes down to a medical situation with the mother and child where one of them has the opportunity to die, or guaranteeing that both of them will die if they don't get this abortion procedure, then people generally say, hey, you know what, that's okay, because again, that's a medical procedure. And honestly, I think that's the tact that really should be taken. If you really want to get this thing passed, you should be, or get this thing put in place permanently, it should just be focused on the whole idea of the medical side of things, not the way that it is. And again, back to the original Roe decision, the way it was originally intended was that it was going to be safe, legal, and rare. The rare being the key word. But now what has ended up happening is abortion has turned into a form of birth control. And like I told you last week, with all those with all those liberal men going and get vasectomies, hey, I applaud them. I applaud them for going and getting a vasectomy, because realistically, that's just taking responsibility for your actions and how you are acting in your life. And so that's perfect. If you want to go and get a vasectomy, I mean, vasectomies are supposedly reversible. I can't tell you because I've never really heard of anybody reversing a vasectomy. I've heard of ones that have failed, but I've never heard of ones being reversed. However, according to the doctors, it's supposed to be. Well, here's the other angle of abortion that a lot of people are really, really frustrated about. And Lauren Boebert has actually introduced an act to correct this particular issue. So let me go ahead and pull this up. This also comes from the Washington Examiner. And in this particular case, Lauren Boebert introduces a Defund Planned Parenthood Act to strip the organization of federal funding. Now, you can argue all you want about, whether or not public funds should be going to these entities. I personally believe they should not. Planned Parenthood, for many, many, many years, has had enough money to be able to donate to left-wing causes every single voting year. So they obviously have plenty of money, and they do not need to have the federal government funding them, because all they really are doing is over and above board. They are actually taking the money from the federal government and they're turning it around and they're sending it off to left-wing agenda items and votes and supporting all of those guys. Okay. So here's the thing, I agree with this, and I actually think that maybe it's probably going to get passed in the House. I'm going to be honest with you. It's probably going to get passed in the House and get squashed in the Senate, just like everything else that we're doing. But at least I can say, at least we're getting a shot and at trying to rein in some of this government spending on left-wing agenda items, which realistically the government should be completely neutral, not be left-wing or right-wing. It should be just for the good of the American people. This is not good for the American people. I'm just telling you that right now. Now, in conjunction with this, on to this poll that a town hall is reporting, that apparently, again, large majorities of Americans continue to favor substantial abortion restrictions. And again, like I said, there's a good segment of society out there that most people think that abortion should be legal, should be allowed, but that restrictions and things, like I said, in terms of the majority of people saying, the first trimester is usually okay, but after that, it needs to be reined in and you can't do it unless it is completely medically necessary. And that's what this Marist poll is showing. So and what's funny is it's not just Republicans that are saying this. It's even some of the more prominent liberal people are also saying this too. They're saying, well, let's just do some common sense stuff on this. Okay. And so that's where this poll is coming. And this has been fairly consistent throughout the many, many years since Roe has been put out. So again, I mean, even though regardless of your religious beliefs and your actual take on the issue and so on and so forth, I mean, I completely have a problem with killing a baby that literally has no reason to be taken out. There's no medical reason or anything else with regards to it. I personally think that, the Bible talks about not killing children, period. But in terms of this, I can at least say that if the majority of people look at this and say, you know what, this is a medical procedure, and if it's necessary, okay, you have to deal with your own conscience in terms of your own religious beliefs and your own thought processes when it comes to this. If it were to come down to my personal decision or a personal decision within my family, that's between me and my family. But to just go and to say completely outlaw it, I also think is kind of on the wrong side of it too, just because of the fact that there are specific instances, albeit very rare, that could get added to. And so, it just, again, I personally don't think abortion should be used as a form of birth control. If you want to avoid getting pregnant, there are many other ways of doing it, like using, preventative measures, and even going so far as to getting a vasectomy. Or if you're a woman and you never want kids, you can go and get your tubes tied. I mean, that's just, there are ways of doing this that it do not involve killing a separate human being. And regardless of what the left says, a baby from the moment of conception is a separate human being. Just by the fact that you have two separate sets of DNA that combine together to make a third set of individualistic DNA within the conception process. So medically speaking, that is an additional life form, an additional human baby. And therefore, if there is no other medical reason for them to be touched, you leave them alone. That's the way life works. Okay. That's my belief. But again, I can kind of understand where abortion by itself shouldn't be completely banned, because it might become a medical reason that you need to do something with. And by the way, too, I want to get this clear. So one of the things that the left tries to use is they try to use their language in terms of trying to call an ectopic pregnancy as an abortion. It is 100% clear that an ectopic pregnancy, meaning a pregnancy that occurs within the fallopian tubes, is not an abortion. That procedure is not an abortion. That procedure is designed to take what essentially is an unviable egg and clear it from the fallopian tubes and correct the problem so that there isn't so that there is no issue with the mother. It is not a viable baby. It's not a viable pregnancy. And so ectopic procedures, those kinds of procedures are not considered abortion. Although if you talk to a leftist, they will come back and they'll tell you, oh, well, what about ectopic pregnancies? That's not a viable pregnancy, folks. Not in any medical legal definition. It's just not there. Okay. All right. Enough of that. I'm going to move on from there. I do have a couple of other articles here that I do want to cover really quick. And this is a huge jump. Okay. Huge jump. So bear with me. But apparently, the left has been talking for a while. They have been talking about how the right cutting taxes, especially in this last tax run with Trump being president, with taxes being cut, that somehow it completely benefits the rich. And I think it's been shown on multiple occasions. It's been shown that the tax cuts that Trump engaged in were across the board. That is a common attack vector from the left onto the right, is that when you cut taxes, you actually are cutting programs, you're cutting money away, you're giving tax breaks to the rich, et cetera, et cetera. I'm telling you right now, the rich, and Dan Bongino showed this, I've shown this, the rich generally pay around 39% of the top 1% of this country pay around 39% of the overall tax burden that is within this country, meaning that they clearly pay well more than their, quote, fair share, okay? But the other argument that the left does is that they keep saying that Republicans doing tax cuts for the rich is going to do nothing but cut at the money that's coming into government. And I can tell you that with the Reagan era and the tax cuts that he implemented, you can go back and look at this. They had record revenue. Let me say that again. Record revenue. So even though they cut the actual percentage of taxes that are being requested, it actually goes and increases the total amount of dollars that comes in. Now, most leftists can't comprehend this because they don't understand basic Econ 101, and they don't understand the whole idea of the rich corporations reinvesting their money, creating more jobs, trying to expand their profits, and things like that, which usually happens when you invigorate them by cutting their taxes. Well, the Trump tax cuts according to this report by the Washington Examiner, and actually a report that came out from, let's see, where did it go? So there's a couple of economists, and the latest Congressional Budget Office report that was released earlier this month went ahead and calculated that, guess what? Trump's tax cuts actually paid for themselves. In other words, he cut the taxes, but we ended up with more revenue. Okay? More revenue. And this is something that people people who don't understand simple basic economics can't even figure this out. But apparently, according to the Budget Office report released earlier this month, they calculated that the federal government collected $4.9 trillion of federal revenue last year. This was up, okay, according to the article, ready for this, almost $1.5 trillion since 2017, the year before the tax cuts became law. In other words, revenues were up 40% in just 5 years. 40% in 5 years. The evidence through the first 3 years of the tax cuts finds that the shares of taxes paid by the wealthiest 1% also rose as well. So much for for the Trump tax cuts being a tax giveaway for the rich. Folks, I'm telling you, I'm just telling you, the Democrats are so ridiculously stupid when it comes to this stuff. And right now they're demonizing the entire the newest thing that's come out in terms of a national sales tax to replace the national income tax. Now, I haven't dug into all of the details yet, but to be completely honest, I've been advocating that we need to tie our taxes to actual business performance rather than tying it to income. Because of the fact that if you tie it to business performance, then now all of a sudden government has to actually work with business in order to increase their revenues due to taxes. And it makes it more of an incentive style of system, rather than a based off of somebody's income and those, $15 an hour things and so on and so forth. They really need to tie it to like our gross domestic product or our gross national product or something. They need to tie it to some metric in order to make it to where the government, in its own interest now, would go and make things much more business friendly. And a sales tax might be the vehicle to go ahead and do this. Now, I personally believe in a kind of a flat tax. I also believe in the repealing of the 16th Amendment because I think it was, it's not proper. But the thing about it is that as far as taxes go, cutting taxes was proven by Reagan. It was proven now, again, by Trump. The whole idea of getting taxes dropped and taken out of Americans' pockets generates more revenue for the federal government. Speaking of Trump, okay, so the left-wing media has constantly pushed for a fight between Trump and DeSantis. They would love to have this happen, and I personally think, honestly, that DeSantis should just stay out of the race until 2028 and 2032. Stay in Florida, finish your last term in Florida, then you have basically 2 years to stump and campaign for 2028. That's my thought process when it comes to Ron DeSantis. The reason being is because Trump is going to come in literally like a wrecking ball and take out the entire field and so on and so forth. But the left would love to see a Trump-DeSantis showdown. And so because of that, they are constantly putting out polls to try and figure all of this stuff out. And so a poll just released that Trump apparently now boasts a 20-point lead over DeSantis, and he hints at new energy in his campaign. Now, keep in mind, we are way early in the 2024 election season. Trump, I personally think, announced way earlier than he had to. But at the same time, he's one of those types of people that just goes ahead and does what he wants to do, regardless of what some of his advisors might tell him. But he wanted to get in. He wanted to get in early, and he felt that everybody was chanting for him to do so. So this is one of those things that, again, it's set up because of the fact that DeSantis has not really said one way or the other that he is not going to run, other than he did say it before he got elected governor the second time. So, I'm hoping that he doesn't pull a Jimmy Carter and like the last 2 years of his governorship, he goes on the road. He can avoid that by staying out of 2024 and going to 2028. But again, we're going to keep having this. We're going to keep having this every single time that you start talking about DeSantis, because even right now, DeSantis, some of the moves that he's been making, and some of the things that he's been saying to the media are, taking that as, he's prepping for a presidential run. Well, he might be prepping for it, but I think he needs to wait until 2028. But then again, I'm just a simple person, simple American who actually doesn't even live in a state. So he probably won't even take my advice, for it. Whatever. I definitely think he needs to stay out of it until 2028. All right. Speaking of fighting, okay, we had this past week a fight over a jersey. And what am I talking about? Well, Steven Stiles, you may remember him when I was talking about the NHL and trying to become more woke by putting in more ethnic people, persons of color as a part of their organization here not too long ago. I had an interview with him about it, but he and I were talking about this the other day, and Steven kind of agrees with me, and I posted this on social media, but apparently the Philadelphia Flyers, is Ivan Provorov. Okay. He, recently they had an LGBTQ night, at the arena. And one of the things that they wanted to do in order to celebrate LGBTQ was to put on a jersey that of course had the LGBTQ flag colors on it. Well, Ivan Provorov basically said, and keep in mind, it was a practice jersey. It wasn't a game jersey, but it was a practice jersey. He basically said, no, I'm not going to do it. I need to stay true to myself and true to my religion, because in his religion, being gay is essentially wrong. It's against what he believes. Now, the thing about it is that the Philadelphia Flyers allowed him to stay on the roster. He actually played that night. He just didn't wear the jersey in the practice. And they went ahead and let him play the game. And of course, that caused an uproar with the leftist nut jobs all over the place, because according to them, you need to kowtow to their demands, or, they're going to do whatever, cancel you or whatever the hell else they do. But the thing about it is that he literally, it wasn't that he was saying that he was against these people. It wasn't saying that these people need to be eradicated from the earth or whatever. All he simply said is, it's my belief and I am not going to wear the jersey. That's it. Well, guess what? This is an exact response under the auspices of freedom of religion here in the United States. And I've been advocating it on this show. I've been telling you, look, if you want to have that kind of lifestyle, that is entirely up to you. Go ahead, have that lifestyle. That is your choice. And I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you otherwise, because that's the beauty of America and the beauty of freedom, free will and choice. You live how you live. I live how I live. As long as you don't try to force your ideas onto me and I don't try to force my ideas onto you, we're good. Okay? If you want to live that way, that's entirely up to you. I don't agree with it, but that's fine. You do with it what you will. And that is the exact response that he pretty much gave. Is he's like, I don't believe in it, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to join in, and so I'm just not going to wear the jersey. No problem with that. No problem with that whatsoever. None. Well, apparently, because of all the uproar, as you can see here on the article, his jerseys, because of his response, his jerseys sold out and are still sold out. Dan Bongino talked about this, I believe, in his podcast yesterday, and he tried to buy a jersey, a Provorov jersey, and couldn't do it. So apparently there are enough people in support of what Ivan Provorov has decided to do to go ahead and try and stop the canceling of the woke folk, and has gone and bought out all of his jerseys, and they continue to sell out, apparently amid the media attacks. Now, this is an indication, folks, this is an indication that we are the pendulum, I believe, is starting to swing the other way. I just don't know how far it's actually going to swing. All right. Last article for the evening here. I don't know if you remember, but Ron DeSantis, Super Governor Ron DeSantis, went ahead and fired a Soros-backed prosecutor a while ago, in August of 2022. After that prosecutor publicly vowed that he would refuse to prosecute crimes related to abortion or medicalized gender transition. Now, the funny thing about this is that Ron DeSantis, perfectly within his right, according to the state constitution of Florida, he fired the guy. Well, the guy went and sued for wrongful termination. And apparently a judge has essentially said, yeah, it's thrown out. He tried to sue him in federal court, and the federal judge threw it out. In the ruling released Friday, the judge dismissed the appeal by the former state attorney Andrew Warren on the grounds that as a federal judge, he does not have the authority to reinstate the man's position. Now, remember when I was telling you on this program with regards to like the Trump lawsuits and everything else, you have to have legal standing in order to bring a lawsuit to fruition within a court. The legal standing, out of one of the three key indicators of legal standing, was the fact that the court itself has to be able to provide some type of reparations at the end of the case, should you be victorious. Well, in this particular case, the federal court can't meddle, according to the Constitution. The federal court cannot meddle in a state's affairs. This is an intrastate affair. This is not one state going after another, which was like the Texas-Pennsylvania lawsuit over the counting of votes. This is something that happened inside the state. And so him filing the lawsuit in federal court was the wrong place to do it. And the judge basically just told him, said, look, I'm sorry, but I'm throwing this out. I can't restore your job. You have to go to your state courts and go through all of your state courts in order to get your job restored, provided that you're victorious. Okay. So this is a perfect example of the division of our federalist system, where the states have rights to govern within their own borders when it doesn't involve anybody else. And that's essentially what I've been telling you all along. The federal government shouldn't be meddling in states' affairs, and the state shouldn't be necessarily outside of gathering with other states meddling in the federal government kind of scenario. That's the separation, the federalist style of system that we have. The federal government itself is supposed to be small, limited, and only deal with interstate relations and foreign entities. That's it. And if you read your Constitution and you actually learn from the Constitution specifically about it, you'll understand that this was the right course for this judge to go ahead and do. All right. I have one last thing. I do not have a question for Whiskey. So do me a favor, if you would, please, if you have a question, please submit it to fans, F-A-N-S, at whiskeymusings.online. That's fans at whiskeymusings.online. The link is in the description, the video description. But before I take off, I want to present one other thing to you. This was a submission, a kind of a here you go kind of submission from Buddy Weiser over on Rumble, and I thought it was interesting, and I want to bring it up and show it to you. So this apparently is why we call a shot a shot. So a shot of whiskey in the Old West, a 45 cartridge for a 6-gun cost 12 cents. So did a glass of whiskey. If a cowhand was low on cash, he would often give the bartender a cartridge in exchange for a drink. And this became known as a shot of whiskey. And that was pretty cool. I thought that was really nice. Thank you for submitting that to us, buddy. I went ahead and shared it with everybody. Thank you. I do appreciate that. All right. That is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor. If you like the show and you like what I do and you're brand new here and not part of the Whiskey Warrior P1s, do me a favor. Head on over to Rumble in particular. You can do it on YouTube as well, but head on over to Rumble and go ahead and sign up. It's free. And go ahead and subscribe to the Whiskey Musings broadcast over on Rumble. There is a great set of people that are over there that are constantly in the chat. I've been watching them, even though I haven't put anybody up on the screen right now, but I've been constantly watching them as much as I can. And they're a great bunch of people. Head on over there. You can join in the chat and talk amongst yourselves while I'm going around and doing my thing. All right. We will see you Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for the next broadcast, the next Whiskey Musings broadcast. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you all then. Good night, everybody.